And you can't look past Disney today. 10% move, and by far the best Dow component of the morning.
Yeah, I mean, Disney really encapsulating a lot of what's going on, which is the market willing to give high-quality companies credit for navigating through this period, companies having a higher floor than perhaps was feared in terms of what the trough earnings were going to look like in the second quarter. Of course, massive annual declines in parts of the business for Disney, but basically the market is holding up the valuation because financial conditions look good and they have a plan, and obviously the growing parts of their business, the newer ones that they're investing in, continue to grow faster than people even hoped. So all that stuff working together. Clearly, it's a $150 stock, 8 months ago. So it's not carving out new ground, but it's definitely more kind of a glass half full type story in terms of that response. And that's something that I guess we see across the markets to some degree. And Julia, I do think also on the cost side, too, Disney was seen as having kind of outperformed what the street was looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. On the cost side, I think that investors didn't realize how much they would be saving in terms of production and marketing costs. Of course, the question is sort of how that impacts the company next year when we start to see them ramp up the production again, or even the second half of this year. But to your point, Mike, about digital, I think what really is driving the stock higher today is not just the fact that Disney Plus is doing so well, hitting 60 million subscribers 4 years ahead of the goal of hitting between 60 and 90 million subs. So really far better than expected in terms of Disney Plus, but also the fact that the company is really doubling down on digital. They're committing to build another digital streaming service internationally. Also talking about this Mulan strategy of offering Mulan for $30 at the same time as they put it in some theaters. So really interesting to see the company push even further in that direction. And of course, this at a time when the parks are struggling. So let's take a closer look at the park segment, taking a $3.5 billion hit due to the coronavirus. Joining us now to discuss that is former design manager at Disneyland Paris, Bill Coan. He's currently runs ITEC Entertainment, which is a firm specializing in theme park design and production. Now, tell me, what did you think about these theme park numbers? $3.5 billion hit to the parks. Some talk on the call about how perhaps people were making reservations and then canceling them when there were spikes in cases in Florida. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's, I'm sure, disappointing news to them. I'm not necessarily speaking for Disney, don't really know the inside, but living in Central Florida and being in the themed entertainment business, it was probably pretty disappointing that they didn't have the attendance, or at least sustain the attendance from the first week or two that they anticipated. So could have been better news for the theme parks, not only here in Orlando, but worldwide.
Yeah, there's also this question of half of the visitor base for Orlando does some travel, sort of comes from out of state. What should we make of that and the fact that Disney's not disclosing any specific numbers about capacity? Where do you think Disney is in terms of capacity right now? And how much do you think they'll be able to ramp that up if half of the visitors would be coming from out of state if they were willing to travel?
Yeah, so that's the question really is twofold. Whether they have capacity in the parks, and they certainly do. The next part of that is, are they getting the demand and the attendance that they anticipated? So good news and bad news, they're getting a chance to ramp up at a pace that allows them to be better operators over time and really understand this challenge of reopening. But at the same time, I think they were hoping to see more people come, and certainly more people come from not only local, the region, but also from out of state. And maybe that's not been as good as they anticipated.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to be a lot of challenges to out of state. There were some comments on the call, the company saying the research indicates and the booking indicates that they should be in good shape once consumer confidence returns. What do you think we should make of that? Both in terms of the domestic parks, of course, the park here in California is still closed, but also internationally where things might be opening up faster than they are here. Yeah,
I think that's one of the many things that they have to consider. They're not only a business that they have to manage and plan and strategize themselves, but they are at the mercy sometimes of the local domestic government agencies. Whether it's a state government, federal government, local county. So they don't necessarily have complete control over it. And then these spikes that we're experiencing tend to kind of work against them in the press and in their communications. So I think the dynamic is still in place, that they don't know exactly what's going to happen week to week, month to month, but I think they are strategizing how to get these things up and running, get them up and running to the point where when the demand comes back, when this kind of settles down a little bit, they'll be ready to go. And I'm confident that not only here in Florida, but eventually California and worldwide, this will pick back up once we solve some of these issues.
Hey, Bill, I wonder how you think seasonality gets sort of turned inside out this year because of the pandemic. One of the things Chapek told us early on, before the parks reopened in Florida, was that mask adherence would be difficult, especially in the humidity and the heat. Obviously, that's less of a factor in the winter. Plus, kids would be taking school online potentially. I wonder, do you think that the fall-winter season could be stronger than we otherwise see?
Well, we hope so. I think that this is a seasonal business. Disney not so much, because they kind of achieve capacity most of the year. They don't have so many slow seasons, and if they do, they throw in special events to get people to come in. But the normal seasonal cycles for attractions obviously lean heavily on the summer and then the Christmas vacations, and that maybe is a little out of whack this time. Here in Central Florida and in other places of the world, Halloween's a big event time, and that we're just going to miss that this time. So I'm sure the hope is that, yes, because the schools maybe are not completely open, that they'll see an extended summer season. I'm sure they're confident that some of that will take effect, but certainly with the regional audience, the people that are traveling, though, are still going to be kind of connected to what their normal school cycles are, and they'll be holidays and kind of weekend travelers, which is not the best news for Disney, but at least it gives them a running start towards next year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Bill, to see how those visitors spread out. A question for you in terms of your business. You design theme parks and produce theme park attractions. How do you see that business changing for this new normal? Even if there is a vaccine and things start to get back to normal next year, do you think theme park design will be forever changed now that we know that something like this can happen?
Yeah, certainly listen, I hope it's not the forever normal. I really like to see some of this come back. We're blessed. We have a business that is global in its nature. We have clients throughout the world. We are in touch with them every day, certainly every week. So the way our client management techniques are a little different than they would have been a year ago from now. And that's because we're trying to stay in touch with these guys, and we are the source of information. So we seem to be connected to a lot of people and a lot of the industry itself. So our clients depend on us to tell them where we kind of think this is going to go. And then it also allows us to anticipate our workload, hopefully picking up towards the end of the year for new attractions, but certainly into next year, where the pent-up demand and the lack of spending, capital spending this year, we hope will pick up in the next year, and that we won't really miss too much. It'll just be delayed. And I think that's the strategy that we see worldwide. It's also happening with Disney's and Universal, the big entertainment companies. So we believe that at least at this point in the pandemic process, our industry is definitely affected, but the strong will survive, and we anticipate a lot of this work will return to us next year. We're hopeful anyway.
Well, we're glad that you're optimistic, Bill. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
It's a pleasure. Good to speak with you guys as well.